Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame tutorial today by me, Vulcan. This is a Wargame Airland battle, and today I'm going to be going through the gameplay mechanics to get you started in a multiplayer or single player game. So basically the way I'm going to do this, if I go to solo and I'm going to skirmish with an AI, just not a decent AI, just one to let you guys see what's going on. I'm going to set the starting points to 2,000. It's going to be a 1v1 and the victory points is going to be 3,000 points. There is going to be a time limit of 30 minutes just in case it drags on a little bit. And we're going to be having a battle on probably one of the most simple maps, Highway to Oslo. And we're going to keep it on destruction because that's the game mode that most people play. And confrontation is basically just NATO versus Pact instead of NATO versus NATO or Pact versus Pact. So today I'm just going to use my British deck, one of my British decks, to show you how to play the game and get you started by demonstrating how I would play the game. So let's get going. So here we are in the game. As you can see at the start of the game, I started the game with 2,000 points. But I don't have 2,000 points in the top left. It says 1,860. Now this is because, depending on what command vehicle you have on your deck, you have it placed at the beginning of the game. Because you can't start a game without having a command vehicle. Because if your last command vehicle is destroyed, then you will lose the game, in any game mode. These command vehicles, identified by the fact that they have a circle with a star and two brackets either side of that circle with a star, that is the symbol for a command vehicle on this game, and they are the most important vehicles of the entire game. So make sure you keep it well defended. You also, if you have an FOB on your deck, you will start with an FOB as well. On this particular deck, I do not have an FOB, but you can see here my two command vehicles. If you're having trouble making a deck and it's saying you need a command vehicle, it's because you need one of these vehicles with the stars and the circles around them. So depending on which you want, make sure you always have enough to capture at least 6 sectors. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble keeping up with the amount of points the enemy can capture. So on a very big map, for instance, you might not be able to capture enough points to keep up with your enemy. In which case it will turn out very badly because they'll have a lot more reinforcements than you will. But here you can see I've got access to 4 sultans, including the one that's already placed, and I also have 2 CMD Chieftain Mark 10s, which are basically just command tanks. And command tanks are really good for securing sectors that are in the front line. So if you want to contest the sector, for instance, contesting a sector is when 2 people have a command vehicle in the same sector. So for example, if an enemy also had a command vehicle in my home sector, then it would turn neutral and neither player would own the sector until until you've destroyed the enemy CV. And CV is short for command vehicle. So let's just get a few units down. So at the beginning, you've got your top, you've got the logistics, recon, tanks, infantry, support, vehicles, helicopters and air. Now at the beginning of the game, I wouldn't recommend you buy any air units. And this is particularly the case in decks where you don't intend to use too much air. For example, in this particular deck, I've got a lot of Challenger 1s, and this is the primary strategy of this particular deck. So what you do to place them is you just click them and you place them. You just left click the symbol and you left click on where you want them to be placed and they'll be placed. If you want more than one, you can click it twice and then you can click down and it will place 2. This is just at the start though. This is called the deployment phase, and this is where you place all your units that you want to be there at the start of the battle. Now please be aware that if you're playing against a human opponent, they can click the launch battle button and it will give you a countdown until your deployment phase is ended. This is just to stop people from basically staying in the deployment for ages and wasting time. So basically it will count down, the game will start even if you haven't finished placing all your units. So please be aware of that. So make sure that you have a strategy devised for what you're going to start with before you start the game. So anyway, I'm going to place down some more units now. So I'm going to get a few Chieftain Mark 10s. I'm going to get a couple of recon vehicles. Recon is extremely important in this game. Please do never underestimate the importance of recon. Knowing where your enemy is and what your enemy is doing is pivotal for countering what they plan on doing. So that's one thing you want to always make sure you have there, is some recon information. I'm going to bring in some HGM Milan teams in pin scours. Now these pin scours are basically just little trucks which carry infantry. I'm also going to bring in some tracked rapiers. This is another important aspect of this game. So here you can see I've got tanks. I need tracked rapiers, which are AA, to support the tanks. I would suggest for every high caliber tank that you have, for example every chieftain I should have at least one AA, because basically what they'll try and do is they'll bring in an aircraft or a helicopter that can basically one-shot ATGM your heavy tanks, and unless you have adequate AA, they are always going to succeed. So please be aware of that. I'm also going to bring in a couple of Falcons. Now AAA and basically autocannon AA, they can fire both at air units and ground units. So on the left you can see the statistics window that opens when you hover over each particular unit, and it will tell you whether or not the unit can attack ranged, ground, helicopters, aeroplanes, and you can see it gives a specific range for each one at the top of the left window where it shows the twin KCB weapon. So in this particular case for the Falcon, it has a 1050 meter range versus ground targets, 2100 meter range versus helicopters, and 1750 meter range versus helicopters. The tracked rapier, however, has 2625 meter range versus helicopter and 2100 meter range versus airplanes. So you've just make sure you've got the correct AA or particular units for what you want to do. This is also the case for HGM Milan teams. You can see they have a range versus helicopters and a range versus ground for their L1A1s, which are just basically their normal machine guns, and their Milan F1 only has range versus ground because it can only be used versus ground units. So that's one way you can identify what units are good for. Either way, we should probably get this show on the road so I can show you some more of the gameplay mechanics that we can use throughout the game. So because I want to hold on to my home sector, which is worth 3 points, as you can see here, if I zoom out you can see that each point on the left here, Golf, Delta and Charlie, are worth 3 points. This means that you gain 3 reinforcement points per second, and for each one that you capture, and then they add up with any other sectors that you also have captured. So for instance, if I hold Alpha, Charlie, Delta and Echo, I'm going to get 12 reinforcement points per second, which is a lot. You want to make sure that at the beginning of the game you have enough command vehicles to capture a few sectors. Well, it depends on how big the map is. In this case I'm only going to bring in 1 extra command vehicle because I want to go ahead and capture Charlie to help, and then bring in reinforcements from Alpha. Now just a big note, these white arrows on the map are the reinforcement points. This is where when you click on the map where you want something to come in, it will come in from these white arrows, these reinforcement points. Another thing to note is air units, as in planes, can only come in from these blue arrows here, or in the enemy's case a red arrow there. So please be aware of this, because if you move out your home sector at the beginning, you're not going to be able to have any air support for the entire game, so please be wary of that. Now, that's only on this particular map. Some maps do vary. So I'm going to get this battle started now, and I'm going to select all my units by dragging a box over them, and I'm going to click Move Fast in the bottom right under Advanced Orders. The hotkey is semicolon, and you can click then, after you clicked Move Fast or the semicolon button, you can click to where you want them to move, and it will move all of the units selected in a Move Fast order to the location. A move fast order is an order that basically makes your units either use roads or basically take the fastest route to get to the place. This may not always be the safest route, so please bear that in mind. Now I've got the game started, I'm going to demonstrate the reinforcement points. So I'm going to bring in a helicopter because it's probably the easiest to demonstrate. I'm just going to come in. This is now in the game is now live, the enemy should be attacking me shortly. I'm going to use this Lynx AH-1 tow and I'm just going to place it near my command vehicle. Now basically what will happen is after a short amount of time, it will come in from the reinforcement point. So you can see it just spawned here. And the reason it came in at this reinforcement point is because it's closest to it. If I secure Bravo and have control of this reinforcement point, then what will happen is, depending on which one I'm closer to when I place the unit, it will come in at the corresponding reinforcement point that's closest. So that's another thing to bear in mind. Basically what you want to do with your command vehicle in this case is hide it in forests. Forests do hide your units. They hide every single unit. The only thing you have to be wary of is any units that use wheels can possibly get stuck in forests. Either stuck in the mud or some other modifier that may occur. So you can see here for the challengers, their fastest route was to come over to this highway here and then drive up the hill. But for the track rapiers, their fastest route was to follow the road all the way round. And that's one of the big things with move fast that you have to make sure you are aware of. So either way, just going to continue to move forwards the challenges. To normal move, you just have to right click like most other strategy games. There are other orders that you can issue, for example the reverse order. The keybind for that is by default R. So if you press R and then you left click where you want them to go, they will reverse to that place. You can see here all of these people that have driven through the forest have incurred different modifiers. For example, one of these falcons is detract, and these 4 chieftain Mark 10s are experiencing rough ground, which is causing them to go very slow across the land. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm moving forward my challengers. I'm basically just using the scroll wheel to scroll in that close. I'm going to... Another thing you should probably know is if you go to display formations on the right side and then click split, it will split the formation of the units you have selected if you just click anywhere on the map. And then there you go, I've got 2 squads of challengers now instead of 1 squad of 2. You can also select multiple units of the same type in a particular area by either dragging around them, or in this case I clicked on one unit, held shift and clicked each of the other units, and then you can click regroup. This will regroup them into a 3-man challenger squad, and they will go into a particular formation. Now they are in a grouped formation, you can click the spread button, and what will happen is the units will automatically spread in a triangle away from each other. This can be very useful, for example, if a bomber is coming in and you need to quickly move your men out of the way, you can click the spread button, and what will happen is the aircraft will come in and probably only bomb one of your particular units rather than all of them if they are close together. That is a very, very good thing to know against aircraft. So, most of you guys probably know most of this if you are a Wargame European Escalation player, but something new about Wargame Airland Battle is the planes. So, you probably want to know how to bring them in. So I'm just going to quickly reinforce with some more challengers for now, and bring up a Gazelle AH-1 with some tracked rapiers to support with AA, and furthermore some Alvis stalwarts to provide resupply, and I'll talk about resupply in a second. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about how you bring in aircraft. So to buy aircraft, you just left click on them once. You don't place them on the map. As soon as you left click, you buy them. So be aware of that. Then if you want to bring them onto the air, or into the air on the battlefield, what you do is you left click on the airport panel in the bottom left, and then you right click on the map where you want them to come in, and they will come in. You can also directly right click on a unit you want to attack, and it will come in and attack that unit. But here you can see my Harrier is now coming in to the place where I originally said, and will then circle around that area. Now, to do a particular bombing run with its ordnance, you can click the fire position button on the bottom right, and then left click where you want them to bomb. So I'm going to bomb this position here. He's going to come round for a run and then bomb that area. In some cases, he may have to go round in a loop to get a clean run on the target. But here you can see the Harrier's coming around. He's lined up for his path, and now he's bombing this particular area. This is also the way in which you use artillery. So I'm going to bring in some artillery and demonstrate that. I've identified the enemy units now. So the enemies are moving up on the right side, and I'm going to respond to that by moving my challengers over there. Okay, so the way that Resupply works, as you can see this yellow bar on the right side of their name, that shows how much that they have. Also, underneath their code signs, or call signs, sorry, the resupply amount that the units carry is at the bottom. It says 3,000 out of 3,000. This is at the very bottom of the screen. And this yellow bar also represents that. Now, this yellow circle that has come out, you can see was resupplying or refueling the Chieftain Mark 10s on the right here. And you can see that because of that, they've now reduced from 3,000 supply to 2,649 supply after refueling the Falcons and the Chieftain Mark 10s. So on the right side here, you can see that the AI has smoked my position and has then gone and killed my recon. So I'm going to have to move up and attack them in this sector now. Now, smoke is another big thing in this game, and it can be used to basically cover your advance. The best way to use smoke is to smoke your enemy, because that then means that you are basically clear to move as close as you need to get to them. So here you can see I use the reverse command to get behind the smoke that the enemy has placed on my units. Now, the reason they are smoking my units is so that I can't fire upon them. So now I'm going to bring up these three challengers from the left side here and use them to help out against the other tanks that are coming up from this particular area. I'm also going to have to get these tracked rapiers forwards so that I can deal with the AA, or air unit, sorry, this Mi-24V that's firing HGMs at my Challenger 1s. Now, a good trick is, when the AI has units, for example this Mi-2, I can bomb that unit because by default helicopters hover at a low altitude when they are not over either forests or other units. So in this case, this Mi-2 is flying very, very low. I'm bringing in a Harrier that will possibly get shot down by AA, and then it will attempt to bomb the Mi-2. In this case, like I said, he got shot down by AA. This Strela came in and took care of that. At the moment though, I'm waiting for my Alvis Stalwarts with the resupply to refuel these Challenger 1s. Now you can see this flashing icon on the right side of their name. That says that they need fuel, and if you check their fuel modifier underneath their call sign, you can see that this Challenger 1 only has 483 fuel out of 2,000 left. So I've still got this Lynx AH1 tow on the left here. I'm not going to send him directly forwards because that will get him killed by the AA. So I'm going to move him over to the left so he can provide support later on. Now, these are Abbots. These are close fire support artillery. And what I plan to do with these is just artillery into Bravo, just to demonstrate how artillery works. Now each artillery has a separate range. They have a minimum range. So you can see here that it's too close to fire this far, and they also have a maximum range, which in most cases is quite far, but in this case you can see is just about at the end of the mountain on the right there. So anyway, I'm going to use these to fire reasonably close, just into Bravo, and what will happen is I basically click to fire position, you click where you want them to fire, and then they will aim and fire a salvo of roughly 6 or 5 or 2 or whatever, dependent on what arty you're using. They'll fire a certain amount of rounds into that particular area, and then they will stop firing. If you want to use smoke, for example, if somebody was coming in to attack my challengers and I wanted to smoke them, what I could do is use the smoke position and then smoke onto my units. So here you can see he's actually cluster bombing my Challenger 1, so I'm going to just smoke that so he can't target it. So as soon as they've reloaded, they will start to fire smoke rounds at my challengers. And you can see that will cover them from being attacked. Now, what I can also do in this case is I can use the Abbots to fire position on that helicopter that I saw earlier. So it was roughly around this location, so what I can do is basically try and land artillery shells underneath it. In this case, I'm probably going to lose this command vehicle here, because in this game I'm not really concentrating, I'm just trying to demonstrate the gameplay mechanics. So in that case, that was a very, very bad mistake. I had an undefended command vehicle at my base in Alpha, and that has meant that I've now lost my resupply point at my base. The little sort of siren that you heard was basically the game telling me that I've lost my air reinforcements. So basically what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to send my challengers, I'm going to do so with a fast move order, back to Alpha to basically re-secure that supply point. I'm going to bring my pin scours, well I'm going to unload them, the ones with the HGM Milan teams in them, and push them forwards to attack the TATBVs. Here you can see the enemy AI is now using rocket artillery to attack my units. So that's what you can see there. I'm going to use my Abbots to fire position these TATBVs while my Chieftain Mark 10s are dueling with them. I'm also going to use this Lynx AH1 tow that I have back here to help with that as well. So you can see here the enemy is also trying to RT my tanks to help stun them. Now my Lynx AH1 tow is just going to sit here and keep firing at these TATBVs. Most HGM vehicles or HGM helicopters can only fire while stationary. Some HGM vehicles can fire while on the move, and there you can see I took out both of his tanks which were attacking me. So now I'm going to try and get my HGMs out of there before they get destroyed, and I'm going to move fast my chieftains back to base. Now these challengers I'm going to send through the forest to kill any units that are left there, and I'm going to get this Sultan into the corner of the sector over here.
Why do I have the feeling that you're about to put our lives at risk? Air defense ready.
So you can see this MiG is probably looking to kill my Sultan, but instead the AI has sent them to attack other things. Another thing to note is that most air radar AA cannot fire whilst on the move. Some infrared AA on the packed side can fire on the move, so that is also the case, but they are a lot less accurate on the move. But in this case, I'm just trying to get these Tret Rapiers up into a position where they can be useful. You can see these Tret Rapiers have actually run out of ammunition, so I'm going to have to go and send them back towards the base to get resupplied by these Alvis Stalwarts. And what I'm going to do here is just buy in some more Harriers that I can then use to bomb any more advances onto my positions. I'm going to move past these Alvis Stalwarts towards these chieftains, and I'm going to make sure these Tret Rapiers meet them, and then I can demonstrate the different types of resupply that you do. For example, these guys are out of ammo. Earlier you saw that I resupplied their fuel, and here you can see that they'll be repaired because one of the chieftains is heavily damaged at the back here. So that's going to be basically the same resupply does everything. So resupply, repairs, rearms and refuels all at once. So don't worry about having to do anything separate, it will all be automatic, but the resupply vehicles will only do so while stationary. So I'm going to click the stop button, or E, on the right side here, and it will basically stop everything in its tracks. But here you can see these Alvis Stalwarts are now out of resupply, and I'm actually going to move past them back so that they don't get attacked by anything else. Here you can see the enemies gained a huge advantage over me purely because I haven't been doing much throughout this battle. But what I'm going to do is just demonstrate some of the tank tactics. I may as well while I'm here. Here you can see at the moment they have HGMs on this road, and they have TATBVs on the right side here. Now this isn't good because basically the chieftains are going to get shot in the side from both locations. It's a really good way to flank your enemy. So instead of keeping all my tanks really bunched up like that, the best thing to do is keep them in a really spaced out front line, like for instance I'm doing here. And basically that will mean that they can't get flanked very easily, and the units on the edge will be able to fire against the side of any units in the middle that are firing anywhere else. So this Challenger on the right side here, I'm going to continue to move around to flank these TATBs if the Challengers don't destroy them first. But basically what you can do if you want to face your particular units towards particular things, you can right click attack on what you want them to face towards, and they will face towards that particular unit. Also in Airland battle they will automatically face towards the most volatile unit, so the unit that will do the most damage. Back here you saw an HGM hit one of my supply vehicles. Supply vehicles in Wargame Airland battle do explode, so any other supply vehicles nearby can cause a chain reaction of explosions, and you can see that's exactly what happened here. But in this case I'm just going to bring in some more Challengers, and we'll just put up a massive front and see how long we can hold out, I guess. I've only got 10 minutes left on the timer, and I am actually winning considering the situation. That's pretty insane, but there we go. But just to demonstrate I can fire position my Harriers off the map, and I'm going to come in and bomb this artillery just here. Not artillery, infantry, sorry. Zoom right in on the aircraft using the middle mouse button to adjust the camera, and bombs away. and you can see the 2 500-pound bombs should absolutely annihilate that infantry that is left just there. So this T-80BV is not being fired upon by this Challenger on the right side here, because if you look at the terrain, it's in a basically a ridge, so you have to be in direct line of sight to be able to shoot at particular things that are there. In that case, my Challenger just absolutely annihilated that T-80, so it doesn't really matter. But basically, we're going to start to push up against the enemy. Now we can. And my track rapiers will come up and support them. So here I'm basically using micromanagement to basically move up each Challenger individually, followed by the tracked rapiers. Another good thing to do is attack move your units. Attack move by default in this game, you can either click the attack order on the right side, or you can press Q and then left click where you want them to attack move. They will stop and attack any unit on their way. That is just basically so that they have the most accurate shot. But as you can see, I'm just slowly pushing forwards now with 8 minutes left on the clock to see if I can do any more damage or even finish the game.
Air defense ready.
You can see he's brought up a Sturm. Unfortunately, my Challenger manages to take that out very, very easily.
You have something for me? Are you talking to me?
Each of these Challengers are just moving up individually.
Air defense ready.
Going to have to move past some of the track rapiers to keep up.
Pack up your gear, people. We're moving again.
So yeah, that's basically it. That's most of the tactics and basics of the game to look at. That's all of the different orders you can do. You can do split orders, regroup orders, split orders, good for basically micromanaging your troops. Regroup orders is for getting them back into formations again. Spread orders, good for spreading your units out in case they are getting bombed. Reverse order in case you want to run away from A to gems, and a move fast order will make them get to their places really, really fast. You've got an attack order, which is the same as attack move. You also have a stop order in case you want to stop your units very, very quickly, and you also have a fire position order, which you can use on most units. They will fire position at a particular area. In this case, I can use my Challenger to fire position at a specific point if I really, really wish. Unfortunately, my track rapier got annihilated there because I forgot to stop him, and I'm just going to continue reversing my Challengers up onto this hill so they don't get annihilated by this Mi-24V. Just a note, you can also hide units in hedgerows and light patches of forest. You can also hide infantry in buildings and on the sides of cliffs, so do also bear that in mind. So you can see my track rapier's got into range and is going to use his AT missiles to shoot down that aircraft. Just going to continue to push forward these Challengers. Never really push tanks through forests. It's probably quite a bad idea, but you can get away with it sometimes, depending on what infantry is in the forest, because sometimes tanks have a very good front armor, which is really good for pushing through forests against weak infantry, and therefore you can get away with it because your tanks will destroy the infantry before they can fire back. But don't try it normally unless you absolutely plan on doing so. So you can see I bumped into some units down in here. What I'm going to try and do is get some recon information on that area, and then I can bomb it. I can come in with my 4 Harriers. If you want to bring in more than one aircraft at a time, you can click the units and then shift click them, and it will bring in like 4 Harriers at once, for instance. So I'm going to do that now, and then all 4 Harriers will come in, and then if you keep them selected, you can just I'm going to fire position these guys separately. you can fire position them onto each particular thing separately, and then we'll have a huge bombing run which will come along and blow up all of these guys. There we go, nice big bombing run. And then my challengers can finish them off. Now, in regards to anti-air units, you can bring in, for example, I'm going to bring in this tornado, and what will happen is if any enemy aircraft comes into range of it, it will automatically attack the enemy aircraft. Incredibly useful for keeping air domination. If you have a lot of anti-air units in the skies, you can actually basically keep control of the air throughout the entire game. Here you can see an Mi-24P that I've spotted. Going to try and use this tornado to take it out. You can see he's fired a unit. He's fired at this MiG-23ML. Here I'm going to actually evac this tornado because I don't want him basically going head to head with another aircraft over enemy territory. So he's basically going to, I basically click the evac button and he's going to basically take off and go into the sky. They basically disappear once they hit the ceiling of the map. But yeah, that's most of the things. If there's anything else you want to know, guys, please make sure that you leave any questions in the comments. I reply to every single comment that I get, so please make sure you do. Hopefully this was a very, very thorough look at the gameplay mechanics. Of course, make sure you check out the tutorials online, and in the game there are set tutorials for this particular game, so please be aware of them and make sure that you use them. They will teach you most of the basics like I have done so today, but I basically made my own version of it just in case anyone needed it. Here you can see my Harriers are coming in for another bombing run. I brought in each particular one separately, so that's why they are coming in a bit further split apart. And most of them actually missed because their units moved since I brought in the air units. But we have 1 minute 40 left on the clock on the right side showing that. My challengers are going to be coming over this ridge shortly. And they will flank this TATB, and hopefully this BMP-1P won't actually hit. So as soon as my challenger comes over, should pretty much one-shot the enemies. Once a HGM unit dies, just a note, the HGM does go out of control. See that this TAT BV didn't actually last very long. I'm actually not very far at all from the wind conditions. And there you can see I got exactly 3,000 points. And the game ended after 29 minutes and 12 seconds. So that was Highway to Oslo. Just a quick 1v1 versus a computer. And hopefully demonstrating all of the gameplay mechanics that you needed to know in the game. If you want to know anything about the UI, please go back and check out my basics tutorial. So yeah, but other than that, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was useful, and I'll be bringing armory tutorials soon enough. So make sure you watch out for them, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.